Hey survivors! So trying to explain to a normie what CFS feels like is frankly impossible. You kinda have to live it and experience it for yourself. And let's face it, as much as I want my family and my friends to understand what I'm going through, there's no way in heck I would ever wish this on them. But there's gotta be more ways to describe what it feels like to have chronic fatigue syndrome. So I asked you guys in my groups to describe to me in your words what it feels like. And I got some really good answers out of you guys. I got tons of great responses, but here are some of my favorites. This one from Kent Turner. It feels like you just competed in a triathlon while you have the flu. That same level of soreness, malaise, and fatigue, but resting doesn't make it go away.
Oh, I hit the wall! This is so painful!
Another way to help people understand is to ask them how long they can hold their arms outstretched before their muscles just give up. That moment where their muscles quit and they just can't do it anymore is my baseline. I start from there when I'm fully rested. Yes, Kent, 100%, this is spot on, and a great physical representation to have your family try too. You can speed up the process maybe by having them hold a milk jug and have them hold it out and have them hold it there as long as they can. And when their arms start giving out and they can't hold it anymore, tell them that is where I am normally. Miss Erin Dupree said, I always start by pointing out that it is muscle fatigue, not tiredness, that I feel. Like watching your arms shake after doing a plank for a long time is how my body responds to just getting up to use the bathroom.
Kids, don't try planking. It's dangerous.
I feel weighted to the ground like you would feel after holding the longest plank you've ever done, all the time. Yeah, I used to love doing planks, but yeah, that horrible feeling afterwards. Yeah, that's totally what it's like now. That's cool and depressing all at the same time. Tammy Vanderstaren said, I feel weight on my body, like I'm being pulled down with stronger gravity, like I'm trying to move through mud.
You're sinking! Come on! Around! You have to now! And against the sadness architects!
And that's super literal, you guys. If you're watching this and you don't actually have chronic fatigue, if you've ever tried walking through mud or wading through water as fast as you can and it has that pushback, that's literally what it ends up feeling like to have this. I don't know if it's because our muscles aren't responding correctly or what, but it literally feels like that. Literally. The true meaning of the word literally. And Hartson says, ME is like being in quicksand.
Beware the ground on which you stand. The floor is quicker than the sand.
Okay, stay calm. Don't struggle. Stay calm.
I'm calm.
You can't fight it like cancer patients fight their cancer. Instead, it's about endurance, often without hope. Enduring and not giving in to unaliving. What happens if you're stuck in quicksand and you fight? The quicksand sucks you in faster and drowns you, and you'll never get out. To survive quicksand, you have to suppress all your instincts, float on your back, and wait for help. The second you panic and struggle, your head will go under and you will suffocate. ME is harder than cancer in so many ways, but people around us think that every disease must be fought in the traditional way. Our fight is different, the harder kind. ME is quicksand, and this is so spot on, you guys. So spot on. Anne has it. Like, the harder you fight, the faster you sink is so dang true. This isn't just a normal thing you fight. This isn't something you just go get chemotherapy or surgery or an exercise routine or a diet and it's fixed. No, I mean, that's just not how this works at all. And literally, the harder you struggle, the faster you get punished and the worse you get. That's why you'll find a lot of people with chronic fatigue syndrome actually used to be athletes. A lot of marathon runners, I was a bodybuilder, dancers. I even met one person who was training to be in the Olympics and had to quit because of this. There is literally no amount of pushing that'll make you break through the wall. The rules change with whatever gives you chronic fatigue syndrome. You no longer fight, break through the wall, feel better, get stronger. No, that's normal people rules. With chronic fatigue ME, the rules are now you fight, you hit that wall, and you go into a coma, and now that wall is thicker than it was before. So it's even harder to break through the wall or to get anywhere near it. And every time that happens until you end up homebound, bedridden. That's why I made this channel. I want to tell the truth no matter how many newbies it annoys or upsets. And I bluntly tell the truth. And that's hard for a lot of people to hear, but if I could just get a few of you to listen and learn to listen to your body, you might actually recover in a manageable way instead of becoming like me where I am homebound, and at a couple points in my life I've been bedbound. I have managed to get out of it 3 different times, but it's really difficult and it's almost impossible once you get to a certain point, and I want to make sure you guys don't do that. I'm sure a lot of you noticed in the comments, most of the super fans are people that have had chronic fatigue syndrome or a chronic illness for a very long time. There's a reason. They know I'm telling the truth. And it's harder for new people to accept the truth, but that's just how it is. I think there was another one from Anne. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here's another one from Anne. She said she thought of another one, and it was a really simple one. Our bodies can't use oxygen properly. Now, this is actually a fact. There's an issue with the mitochondrial disease where we don't use oxygen properly. And they're still researching that. There's a lot to that, so I'm not going to go into it. You can look it up. But it's basically like what I said in response to her was, I was like, oh yeah, kind of like we're always slowly drowning.
I'm drowning, and cats hate drowning.
That's why we have the brain fog issues. That's why our muscles just hit a wall and can't, even though we might be technically strong. Like I said, I started from bodybuilding. You know, when you don't have enough oxygen, your muscles won't be able to work properly. You're just always lacking, and it makes it very hard to survive. It affects your immune system, it affects your muscle function, it affects your brain function. Good one, Anne. You got some really good ones here. Thanks so much for giving me permission to post these. All right, this was actually a post I found from, I'm gonna butcher this. I apologize. I got that lovely Midwestern accent. I really can't fix. Hippocrates Angelidis. I apologize if I said that totally wrong. But his post says, "This is not fatigue. I was an athlete. I've done a whole basketball practice with a fever. I've had morning classes and workouts while sleepless for 24 plus hours. Nothing comes close to this. This feels like being allergic to exertion while having a brain injury." And he's talking about long COVID, which again is almost synonymous with chronic fatigue syndrome, which is almost synonymous with ME. But yeah, that's exactly it. Many of us were athletes before. It's not just tiredness. It's not just being lazy. It is so much more than that.
Flabby, fat, and lazy. You walked in and upset Daisy.
Allergic to exertion. That's a really good way to put it because our bodies freak out from overexertion. So that's actually pretty accurate, honestly. I think someday science might find that's actually the case. I know we definitely typically have autoimmune issues and overactive immune systems when we have this. So that might be a huge part of it. Allergic to exertion. I like it. I also found this article by Mary B. Woman who feels allergic to gravity and can't stand for more than 3 minutes. Now, this is an article mostly about POTS, but I do... Where are you going? Uh-oh. Now, while this is an article about POTS mainly, I do feel it also applies to chronic fatigue syndrome, since POTS and chronic fatigue syndrome are closely linked. Ali Tran said, "Someone said this illness is like life in a glass coffin, where you watch the flowers people give you dwindle down to zero. And I think this is a reference to the way we feel with chronic fatigue, not necessarily physically, but emotionally, as we see our friends start to drop off because they want us to get better, but we're not getting better. And I do have a video where I kind of prove how this is actually a good thing in a weird way. And I do hope you check that out when you're done with this video. By the way, guys, if you haven't liked this video yet, please do give a like. It's free for you and it helps me a lot. And if you don't like this video, give it a dislike. Either way, it helps me. All right, so this next one was an ad I found for invisible disabilities, and it says, "These are not your shoes, but try walking in them." And it shows a pair of heels with nails sticking up through them. And good golly, when mine first started, I was working in healthcare. So, you know, you're standing your whole shift every day. And it literally felt like that. Like, oh my gosh, it hurt so bad. The foot pain was real because with chronic fatigue syndrome, you get swollen lymph nodes. And while these typically are around the neck region, a lot of times it's also in the bottoms of your feet. And that's where mine swell up right before a flare up and at the base of my skull. And so, yeah, that's why it's so painful. This one I found in an article about chronic fatigue syndrome, which I will have down in the sources as usual. But it says, "For me, it feels like a combination of being hit by a bus and somebody kneeling on my chest," Dennis said. "Then it literally feels like all the tendons, bones, muscles, and blood are being sucked out of my body."
My God, his Bone-itis!
Yep. It's amazing how painful it is and how utterly exhausting it is at the same time. It's messed up, really. You ever realize something's so bad, you just gotta giggle at it? Like, it's so bad, you just... Wanna fly? Hi. But yeah, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. So you might as well laugh. It's kind of like Harry Potter when the Dementors come and they suck away all of your energy, says Kathleen Dennis, a former Toronto healthcare worker living with a condition called Myalgic Encephalomyelitis, or meCFS. So yes, I thought they sucked their souls, but if it's your energy, that makes sense too.
But why deny the Dementors? They're so longing to see her.
I like this. This is a really good explaining one nowadays. Joanne said, depending who is asking, for kids, I say my batteries are broken and only get a little bit charged up and run out really fast. So the battery analysis, like I said in the why I dislike spoon theory video, is kind of what she's saying here. And then she also says, I tell some adults that I feel like I've been on a 3-day bender in Vegas.
Okay, we're just spending the night in Vegas. It's no big deal.
Ginger says, I have kind neighbors that occasionally ask what it's like. Briefly, I say it's like having a bad flu that doesn't go away. And heavy body fatigue, like trying to move while covered with a wet wool blanket. Yep, trying to move with a wet wool blanket over you, the same kind of feeling like walking through mud we talked about earlier. And Jocelyn from nopostergirl.com is her blog. She said, I've been known to say it's like you just ran a marathon with the flu and a hangover. Yep. I love these. They're very similar, you'll notice. And that's because they're real experiences from people who really have this. So yeah, we are all going to kind of have similar thoughts on it, but the different interpretations I think are great. The hangover edition, beautiful. So fibromyalgia/CFS support actually responded to my question on Twitter. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at Fatigue Theory. But they responded, living with CFS is like going in slow motion in a world that's going at full speed.
Don't let your life pass you by.
And ain't that the truth? Oh my goodness. And then you get severe and it's like you're at a full stop and you're just like, wait for me. Yep. But really, honestly, in my opinion, the only thing that can really compare to what CFS actually feels like is that scene in The Princess Bride where they have Wesley in the machine and they're sucking the life out of him.
I've just sucked 1 year of your life away. How do you feel?
Yeah, That's what it feels like. And for all you normies watching this that are already gearing up to write in my comments all these ways we should be using to fix our chronic fatigue syndrome, this is for you. Unsolicited medical advice is not welcome. I did not ask for it. None of us did. If you want to rate me hate comments for that, that's fine. It'll help the algorithm. But even with the algorithm being helped by comments, I'm going to be mean for once in a nice way. And I'm going to say, please leave your unsolicited medical advice in your head. And speaking of when people give unsolicited medical advice, or they just ask you about your disability in a very rude or awkward way, I did want to really quick go over this really good post by Disability Health, things to say when strangers ask you about your disability. And this works on the internet too, I believe. So you don't have to answer them. You are allowed to say no. You don't have to be mean. You can be like, I'm sorry, that's a personal question. I don't really discuss this sort of thing in public, or I don't really discuss this kind of thing online. If you don't know who the person is, like, who are you? Why is it your business? You can tell them straight out if it's inappropriate too, because you know a lot of these people, when they ask, they're not really asking, they're kind of just being insulting. And in that case, call them out for what they're doing. Hey, that's inappropriate. I mean, geez, if HIPAA has restrictions on medical records, why do we have to tell you all our business? Explain poorly and then ask them what happened to one of their physical features, especially if there's nothing wrong with it. So that's gaslighting, and I don't really approve of that one. I understand when you're mad or you want to be sassy. But gaslighting really isn't okay, and it's not really a good way to get people on your side. You want to be better than them. You want to take the high road. That doesn't mean you can't put your foot down, and that doesn't mean you can't call it like it is. But this is gaslighting, and this is taking the low road. I've used this! Oh my gosh, I've used this, you guys. Oh, look at the time! The X-Men will never forgive me if I'm late to another team meeting.
We're the X-Men, dated metaphor for racism in the 60s.
I'm a geek, so, you know, comparing yourself to the X-Men, because they all had special abilities that normal people didn't, is kind of cool. I don't know. I like to turn things fun. Make aggressive eye contact and say, I'll show you mine if you show me yours. That could get you in trouble pretty quick. There's a lot of people that like people with disabilities for the wrong reasons. And if you're going to say that, be careful.
It's just a fetish I have.
I think that one's more for like when people want to see, hey, take off your prosthetic leg, you know, that kind of thing. I think that's more of a comeback for that type of disability. But yeah, just warning you, be careful with that. Roll ragefully into the sunset without saying... Sorry. The word... Oh, I'm gonna cry. That's awesome. The wording is so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, I can say it. Roll ragefully into the sunset without saying a word. I love it. Oh, what a fun way to say that. Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to block that. First of all, and I mean this in the kindest possible way, go frick yourself. That's a little harsh. Again, we want to get people on our side, not make enemies of everyone.
It's supposed to be some kind of irony.
If everything is a you versus them scenario, like if you consider everyone not disabled or chronically ill and ableist, that's a you versus them scenario. That's a great way to cause separation. When these are the people we need to get on our side to get anything done, to get anything to the reporters, to get anything to this into the studies, we need more people backing us up and joining with us. So unless they're being a troll, unless they're being a jerk, I would stay away from being super harsh like that. If you're just making enemies and making people think, yeah, I was right, they were crazy, it makes it harder for all of us. So yeah, I'm not saying let trolls go without any repercussions. What I'm saying is give what you're getting and try and take the high road first. If they're not giving you something that bad, don't jump to conclusions or jump to be Vish. We need more people shouting this from the rooftops. And thanks to long COVID, we have a chance because everyone knows someone with long COVID. So we really need to get more people shouting from the rooftops so we can get more studies, more help, more doctors knowing about this so they don't write us off, etc., etc., etc. So while it's up to your discretion on whether or not you tell people about your chronic illness or disability, I do hope that when you do decide to tell people, this list makes it a little easier for explaining exactly how it affects you and exactly how it feels in a way that hopefully they start to understand. Comment below what chronic fatigue syndrome feels like for you. Thanks for watching the whole video, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Keep on surviving, my friends.